Hey everyone, welcome back to the video on my Storytime channel. So I'm going to read the fourth chapter of the first book of the Left Behind series, the adult Left Behind series, Left Behind. Chapter 4 on page 59. Okay. Buck kept pressing a handkerchief soaked with cold water onto the back of his head. His wound had stopped bleeding, but it stung. He found another message in his email in his inbox and was about to call it up when he was tapped on the shoulder. "I'm a doctor. Let me dress your wound." "Oh, it's all right," just let me do this, pal. I'm going crazy here with nothing to do, and I have my bag. I'm working free today. Call it a Rapture special." "A what?" "Well, what would you call what happened?" The doctor said, removing a bottle of gauze from his bag. "This is going to be pretty rudimentary, but we will be sterile." "AIDS? I'm sorry?" "Come on, you know the routine." He snapped on rubber gloves. "Have you got HIV or anything fun like that?" "No, and hey, I appreciate this." At that instant, the doctor splashed a heavy dose of disinfectant on the gauze and held it against Buck's scraped head. "Yow, take it easy." "Be a big boy there, stud. This'll hurt less than the infection you'll get otherwise." He roughly scraped the wound, cleansing it and causing it to ooze blood again. "Listen, I'm going to do a little shave job so I can get a bandage to hold. All right with you?" Buck's eyes were watering. "Yeah, sure. What was that you said about Rapture?" "Is there any other explanation that makes sense?" the doctor said, using a scalpel to tear into Buck's hair. A club attendant came by and asked if they could move the operation to one of the washrooms. "I promised to clean up, hon," the doctor said. "Almost done here." "Well, this can't be sanitary, and we do have other members to think about. Why don't we just give them their drinks and nuts, all right? You'll find this isn't just going to upset them that much on a day like this. I don't appreciate being spoken to that way." The doctor sighed as he worked. "You're right. What's your name?" "Susie." "Listen, Susie, I've been rude and I apologize, okay? Now let me finish this, and I promise not to perform any more surgery right out here in public." Susie left, shaking her head. "Doc," Buck said, "leave me your card so I can properly thank you." "No need," the doctor said, putting his stuff away. "Now give me your take on this. What did you mean about the Rapture? Another time, your turn for the phone." Buck was torn, but he couldn't pass the chance to communicate with New York. He tried dialing direct, but couldn't get through. He hooked his modem up to the phone and initiated repeat dialing while he looked at the message from Steve Plank's secretary, the matronly Marge Potter. "Buck, you scoundrel! I don't have enough to do and worry about today. I gotta check on your girlfriend's families. Where'd you meet this hottie Durham? You can tell her I reached her mother out west, but that was before a flood or a storm or something knocked phone lines out again. She's perfectly healthy but rattled, and she was very disgrateful to know her daughter hasn't disappeared. The two sisters are okay too, according to Mom. You're a dear for helping people like this, Buck. Steve says you're going to try to come in. It'll be good to see you. This is so awful. So far, we know of several staffers who disappeared, and several more we haven't heard from, including some in Chicago. Everybody from senior staff is accounted for now that we've heard from you. I hoped and prayed you'd be all right. Have you noticed that it seems to have struck the innocents? Everyone we know who's gone is either a child or a very nice person. On the other hand, some truly wonderful people are still here. I'm glad you're one of them, and so is Steve. Call us." No word whether she'd been able to reach Buck's widowed father or married brother. Buck wondered if that was on purpose or she simply had no news yet. His niece and nephew had to be gone if it was true that no children had survived. Buck gave up trying to reach the office directly, but again successfully connected with his online service. He uploaded his files and a few hastily batted out messages of his whereabouts. That way, by the time the self-system once again took on some semblance of normalcy, Global Weekly would have already gone ahead start on his stuff. He hung up, disconnected to the grateful look to the next in line, then went looking for that doctor. No luck. Marge referred to the innocents. The doctor assumed it was the Rapture. Steve had poo-pooed space aliens. But how could you rule out anything at this point? His mind was already whirring with ideas for the story behind the disappearances. Talk about the assignment of a lifetime. Buck got in line at the service desk, knowing his odds of getting to New York by conventional means were slim. While he waited to remember what it was Chaim Rosenzweig, the newsmaker of the year, had told him about the young Nicolae Carpathia of Romania. Buck had only told Steve Plank about it, and Steve agreed it wasn't worth putting in the already tight story. Rosenzweig had been impressed with Carpathia, that was true, but why? Buck sat on the floor in line and moved when he had to. He called up his archive files in the Rosenzweig interview and did a word search on Carpathia. He recalled having been embarrassed to admit to Rosenzweig that he never heard of the man. As the taped interview transcript strolled past, he hit the pause button and read. When he noticed his low battery light flashing, he fished an extension cord out of his bag and plugged the computer into a socket along the wall. "Watch the cord," he called it occasionally as people passed. One of the women behind the counter hollered at him that he'd have to unplug. He smiled at her. "And if I don't, you're going to have me thrown out, arrested? Cut me some slack day of all days." Hardly anyone took note of the crazy man on the floor yelling at the counterwoman. Such rarely happened in the PanCon Club, but nothing surprised anyone today. Rayford Steele disembarked at the helipad at Northwest Community Hospital in Arlington Heights where the pilots had to get off and make room so a patient could be flown to Milwaukee. The other pilots hung around for the entrance, hoping to share a cab, but Rayford had a better idea. He began walking. He was about 5 minutes from home, and he was betting he could hitch a ride easier than finding a cab. He hoped his captain's uniform and his clean-cut appearance would set someone's mind at ease about giving him a ride. As he trudged along, his trench coat over his arm and his bag in hand, it emptied a despairing feeling. By now, Hattie would be getting to her condo, checking her messages, trying to get calls through to her family. If he was right that Irene and Ray Jr. were gone, where would they have been when it happened? Would he find evidence they had disappeared rather than being killed in some related accident? Rayford calculated that the disappearances would have taken place late evening, perhaps around 11 p.m. Central Time. Would anything have taken them away from home at that hour? He couldn't imagine what, and he doubted it. A woman of about 40 stepped for Rayford on Algonquin Road. When he thanked her and told her where he lived, she said she knew the area. A friend of mine lives there. Lived there. Li Ning, the Asian girl on Channel 7 News. I knew her and her husband, Rayford said. They still live in our street. Not anymore. They dedicated the new newscast to her today. The whole family is gone. Rayford exhaled loudly. This is unbelievable. Have you lost people? Afraid so, she said, her voice quavery. About a dozen nieces and nephews. Wow. You? I don't know yet. I'm just getting back from a flight, and I haven't been able to reach anybody. Do you want me to wait for you? No, I have a car. If I need to go anywhere, I'll be all right. O'Hare's closed, she said. Really? Since when? It was announced on the radio. Runways are full of planes, terminals full of people, roads full of cars. Tell me about it. As the woman drove sniffling into Mount Prospect, Rayford felt fatigue he never endured before. Every few houses he had driveways jammed with cars, people milling about. He appeared everyone everywhere had lost someone. He knew he would soon be counted among them. Can I offer you anything? He asked the woman as she pulled into his driveway. She shook her head. I was glad to be able to have the help. You could pray for me if you think of it. I don't know if I can endure this. I'm not much for praying, Rayford admitted. You will be, she said. I never was before either, but I am now. Then you can pray for me, he said. I will. Count on it. Rayford stood in the driveway and waved to the woman until she was out of sight. The yard and the walk were spotless as usual. And the huge home, his trophy house, were sepulchral. He unlocked the front door. From the newspaper on the stoop to the closed drapes in the picture window to the bitter smell of burned coffee when he opened the door, everything pointed to what he dreaded. Irene was a fastidious housekeeper. Her morning routine included the coffee pot on a timer kicking on at 6, percolating her special blend of decaf with an egg. The radio was set to come on at 6:30, tuned to the local Christian station. The first thing Irene did when she came downstairs was to open the drapes to the front and back of the house. With lump in his throat, Rayford tossed the newspaper into the kitchen and took his time hanging up his coat and sliding his bag into the closet. He remembered the package Irene had mailed him at O'Hare and put it in his wide uniform pocket. He would carry them as he searched for evidence that she had disappeared. If she was gone, he sure hoped she had been right. He wanted above all else for her to have seen her dream realized, for her to have been taken away by Jesus in the twinkling of an eye, a thrilling, painless journey to his side in heaven, as she always loved to say. She deserved that if anybody did. And Ramey, where would he be? With her? Of course. He went with her to church even when Rayford didn't go. He seemed to like it, to get into it. He even read his Bible and studied it. Rayford unplugged the coffee pot that had been turning itself off and then back on for several hours and had ruined the brew. He dumped the mess and left the pot in the sink. He flicked off the radio, which was piping the Christian station's network news hookup into the air, droning on about the tragedy and mayhem that had resulted from the disappearances. He looked about the living room, dining room, and the kitchen, expecting to see nothing but the usual neatness of Irene's home. His eyes filling with tears, he opened the drapes as she would have. Was it possible she had gone somewhere? Visited someone? Left a message? But if she had, she did find her. What would it say about her own faith? Would that prove this is not the raptor she believed in, or would it mean that she was lost just like he was? For his sake, if this was the raptor, he hoped she was gone, but the ache and this were already overwhelming. He switched on the answering sheet and heard all the same messages. He had heard when he'd gone through from O'Hare, plus the message he had left. His own voice sounded strange to him. He detected in it a fatalism, as if he knew he was not leaving a message for his wife and son, but only pretending to. He dreaded going upstairs. He dreaded going upstairs. He moseyed through the family room to the garage exit. If only one of the cars was missing, and one was, maybe she had gone somewhere. But as soon as he thought of it, Rayford slammed onto the step just inside the garage. It was his own BMW that was gone, the one he had driven to O'Hare the day before. It would be waiting for him when the traffic cleared. The other two cars were there, Irene's and the one Chloe used when she was home. And all his memories of Ramey were there too. His four-wheeler, his snowmobile, his bike. Rayford hated himself for his broken promise to spend more time with Ramey. He'd have plenty of time to regret that. Raver stood and heard the rattle of the envelope in his pocket. It was time to go upstairs. It was nearly Buck Williams' turn at the head of the line of the PanCon Club counter. He found the material he'd been looking for on disc. At some point during the several days of taping, Buck had raised the issue of every other country trying to curry favor with Dr. Rosenzweig, hoping to gain access to his formula for its own gain. This has been an interesting aspect. Rosenzweig had allowed, his eyes twinkling. I was most amused by a visit from the Vice President of the United States himself. He wanted to honor me, to bring me to the President, to have a parade, to confer a degree, all that. He diplomatically said nothing about my owing him anything in return, but I would owe him everything, would I not? Much is about what a friend of Israel as the United States has been over the decades. And this has been true, no? How could I argue? But he pretends to see the wards and kindness as all for my own benefit. I humbly turned them down. Because you see, young man, I am most humble. I am not. The old man had laughed uproariously at himself and related several of the stories of visiting dignitaries who worked at charming him. Was anyone sincere? Buck had asked. Did anyone impress you? Yes, Rosenzweig said without hesitation. From the most perplexing, surprising corner of the world, Romania. I do not know if he was sent or came on his own, but I suspect the latter because I believe he is the lowest ranking official I entertained following the award. This is one of the reasons I wanted to see him. He asked for the audience himself. He did not go through typical political and prodigal channels, and he was Nikolai Carpathia. Carpathia like the Carpathian Mountains. A melodic name, you must admit. I found him most charming and humble, not like myself. Again, he laughed. I not heard of him. You will. Bucket tried to lead the old man, because he's impressive, that's all I can say. And it's a sort of low-level discipline at this point. He's a member of the lower house of the Romanian government. In the Senate? No, the Senate is the upper house, of course. Don't feel bad that you don't know it, even though you're already an international journalist. This is something only Romanians, amateur political scientists like me know. This is something I like to study in your spare time, precisely. But even I had not known of this man. I knew of someone in the House of Deputies. That's what they called lower house of Romania in Romania. Was a peacemaker leading movement toward disarmament. But I did not know his name. I believe his goal is to global disarmament, which we Israelites have come to distrust. But of course, he must first bring about disarmament in his own country, which not even you will see in your lifetime. This man is about your age, by the way. Blonde and blue-eyed, like the original Romanians who came from Rome, where the Mongols affected their race. What you like so much about him? Let me count, Rosenzweig had said. He knew my language as well as his own, and he speaks fluent English. Several others also, they tell me. Well-educated, but also widely self-taught. And I just like him as a person. Very honest, very open. What did he want from you? That's what I liked the best, because I found him so open and honest. I asked him outright the question. He insisted I call him Nikolai, and so he said, Nikolai, this is after an hour of pleasantries. What did you want from me? Do you know what he said, young man? He said, Dr. Rosenzweig, I seek only your goodwill. What could I say? I said, Nikolai, you have it. I am a bit of a pacifist myself, you know. Not unrealistically. I did not tell him this. I merely told him that he had my goodwill, which is something that you also have. I suspect this is not something you bestow easily. That is what I like about why I like you and why you have it. I wonder you must meet Carpathia. You would like each other. His goals and dreams would never be realized even in his own country, but he is a man of high ideals. If he should emerge, you will hear of him. And as you are emerging in your own orbit, he will likely hear of you or from you, am I right? I hope you are. Suddenly was Buck's turn at the counter. He gathered up his concession cord and thanked the young woman for bearing with him. Sorry about that, he said, pausing briefly for forgiveness that was not forthcoming. Just like today of all days, well, you understand. Apparently she did not understand. She had a rough day too. She looked at him tauntingly and said, what can I not do for you? Oh, you mean because I did not do something you asked? No, she said. I'm saying it to everybody. Just my little joke does really nothing I can do for anybody. No flights are scheduled today. The airport is going to close any minute. Who knows how long it'll take to clear all the wreckage and get any kind of traffic moving again. I mean, I'll take your request and everything. We can't get your luggage, book you a flight, get you a phone, book you a hotel room, anything we love to do for our members. You're a member, aren't you? Am I a member? Gold or platinum? Lately, I'm like a kryptonite member. He flashed his card, showing he was among the top 3% of air travelers in the world. If any flight had one seat in the cheapest section, it had to be given to him and upgraded to first class at no charge. Oh my gosh, she said. Tell me you're not the Cameron Williams of that magazine. I am. Time? Honest. Don't blast me. I'm from the competition. Oh, I knew that. The reason why I know is I wanted to get into journalism. I studied in college. I just read about you, didn't I? Youngest award winner on most cover stories with someone under 12? Under 12? Funny. Or something. I can't believe we're joking on a day like this, he said. She suddenly clouded over. I don't even want to think about it. So what could I do for you if I could do anything? Here's the thing, Buck said. I have to get to New York. I don't give me that look. No, it's the worst place to get to right now. But you know people. You know pilots who will fly on the side, charter stuff. You know what airports they would fly out of. Let's say I had unlimited resources and I could pay whatever I needed to. What would you send me to? She stared at him. I can't believe you asked me that. Why? Because I do know someone. He flies these little jets out of Waukegan and Paluki airports. He's expensive, and he's the type which would charge double during a crisis, especially if you knew who you were and how desperate. There won't be any hiding that. Give me the info. Hearing it on the radio or seeing it from the television was one thing. Experiencing it for himself was something else again. Rayford Steele had no idea how it would feel to find evidence his own wife and son had vanished from the face of the earth. At the top of the stairs, he paused with the family photos. Irene, always one for order, had hung them chronologically, beginning with his and her great-grandparents, old, cracked black and whites of stern-faced, raw-boned men and women of the Midwest. Okay, this is where I take a break for now, and I'll update you guys in part 2. Take care, everybody.